Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session of the Old Wise Asylum. Hey, autumn's going on, harvest is here. What's arriving in your world and what's leaving your world, that's what's important at this time. As we move into Samhain and the bringing in of the light to your world at the end of the year. So, yes, we're nearly there next week. We're nearly there, aren't we? So we'll discuss Samhain next week, I suppose. But we are in the harvest season, and take note of what's appearing in your world. So, anyway, so I've short one in relation to what I'm presenting tonight, which leaves us time later for basically to hand the show to you. And if you've got any subjects you want to discuss or any questions, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them after the gig. So, but it's been an interesting week in relation to data. It's always great, isn't it? You know, you think you know what you know, but it only takes somebody else's experiences and the way they present it to actually add something to what you already know, or just clear up the mechanisms that are being used against you when we enter this system. And it's definitely been a week for that. So that's what we're going to discuss basically, and how they basically take the role or the position of beneficiary when you enter this system in commerce without you realising exactly. But if you can better understand the mechanic, it helps, because the more you can grasp the picture in your third eye as to what's actually happening, the more productive you're going to be, and the more you're going to fully understand the situation, and more importantly, regardless of how you're playing in the game, no matter what they throw at you, the clearer that picture is that you've got, then of course the easier it is to rebut all this false legal system that they present as real and as law. It's not law, it's contract law. And only when you enter that contract or give them contract does that become binding. And of course, we know it's all about fraud and deception. So, interesting week in that respect. So we'll have a look at that. But there's just a couple of things I just want to run by you, just while, you know, we've got this Jimmy Savile's Vagina escapade ramping up. I thought they defeated the attack on the pensioners, but yet it would appear that they're still going to go ahead with it. Now, I don't know, because of course I don't pay attention to what's going on down at Chalker, Westminster. Why would I? I'm not particularly interested in what garbage they have to pump out, because I'm not listening, I'm not interested, and I don't stand under any of it. So, I don't care. I am concerned about the bill in Northern Ireland, and it would appear Scotland's got a similar one. That is very worrying. But people, you've got to remember, it's an offer. A bill is created by the government or the cabinet or the crown, and then it's presented before the bankers. And it's, do you, almighty bankers, want us to implement this? And if it passes, the bankers have said, yay, go for it, boys, we're going to make more money, we're going to get more control. That's what's happening with these bills, because of course everything today is commerce. Nothing is de jure. You're not under government. No state office is operating in de jure. It's all de facto corporate. Contract that you don't know about, and as long as they get you to contract or consent to their offer, by default, by deception and by fraud, off they go. Off goes the little devils. But this, you know, Jimmy Savile's vagina and his happy pubes, you might call them, they're at it and they're off. But there's just a couple of things that people are not... You really need to get to grips with what it is that actually is in place right now under this bunch of Bolshevik murdering pigs, when history tells us they are. Of course, I'm not suggesting that I'm saying that, but of course, if you study history of these fruitcakes, then that's the picture it does present. And so let's just have a little look at this. Now that weren't supposed to start there, so that's rubbish. Why has it done that? Not supposed to start there. It's obviously me, but there he is. Jimmy Savile's vagina. I support Zionism without qualification. And of course, this week he's been the spokesperson for said Bolshevist elite over there in Israel. He forced me, said Harry, Daddy, honestly, Daddy, he forced me. Now, this has gone all tits up because this is not what's supposed to happen, but we'll go backwards, it doesn't matter. So he was forced. Does Daddy believe him? Now then, I made a promise to Esther Ransom before the election that I would provide time for the debate and vote on assisted dying. She wants to kill you, Esther Ransom. Oh, look at that. Uncle Jimmy, the shagger of dead people and other things. And just a reminder, there's little Keir Starmer there with Uncle Jimmy, rinsed to death to form the many-altered mind that you see before you, standing at the podium at Chalker, Westminster. And of course, there's Jimmy, Republicans, Trump. And there he is, the fake monarch, with Uncle Jimmy. We've got a Jimmy parade going on here. And of course, the latest diversion for all the teeny boppers that still haven't grown up, Liam the Gallagher, who pretends, of course, to be a rebel. And back we go to remind you who Jimmy Savile's vagina actually works for. Yet, he's pretending to all the muzzies that he's fully supporting them. He's there to stop anybody calling him names, get out on the street, preach your hate, pray to the God of the tarmac, do everything you want to piss off all the non-muzzies. Readying for trumpet. Can you see the game, folks? Don't think the muzzies are seeing it quite well because, of course, they don't work on intellect. They're running around on emotion and belief. And they do what the bankers or imams tell them to do. Don't they? And so, you know, they can't turn around and say, nobody told us, Gov, because I'm telling you. And I've been telling you. If you had not listened, that's on you. If you don't accept it, again, it's going to be on you. But don't blame us when it all turns around, when the other blonde bombshell over there in the US takes office in November. And as he said, anybody that decries Israel is going to kick their heads in. He's going to kick their heads in. So there you go. And of course, Jimmy Savile's vagina is going to say, well, we're not playing out Trump. But of course, all the white honkies here, rightly so, are going to say, right, Trump, we need you to come in here and sort this out because, of course, our lot are not doing it. And again, rightly so, because on our land we've got all these people acting contrary to what is English law. And that's not allowed. It's very naughty. So there's the gig. That's how I see it. But more importantly, what are they getting ready for in the background? So this week, one super hard as fuck leader has killed another hard as fuck leader and rejoiced. And then the boys and girls that were with the other leader that got snotted tried to do it to the other one, and he shit his pants crying his eyeballs out, and now he's got even more excuse to beat the living daylights out of Iran. Of course, in Iran, the leaders are all connected to the same leaders and they're all in the bed together. It's just a shit show. But of course, out there in La La Land, you've still got the majority of fruit bats queuing up for the next round of the old because they've just been told what they had in 2020, 21, 22 and 23 isn't going to work against this new gig because they keep switching these towers on when you're fast asleep at night. So, and they're queuing up for it now. I've seen face nappies on the floor in places, so obviously TV land is scaring the living shit out of everybody again. Not that I care because I don't watch it. However, who's been on my little face ache this week? Only a big plethora of talking heads who are the newsreaders all over BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5, all over my little face ache. And I think they're starting to wise up to the fact that everything's leading to this controlled nuclear conflagration in the Middle East, so that all the fruit bats that are queuing up for the shit the pants and go, government, give down more rules, we need martial law. We need to take all our white kids, males, out of the country to go fight this war, so that all these fruitcake immigrants could come in and rape all our women. Whether that's grandma, because they like raping grandmas, whether that's mums, and whether that's your daughters and your babies. And they're not that bothered about whether they're male or female, from what I can see. So there's the script. It's going on, and I presented it, in a tune that the whole internet world don't want you to listen to. Especially FaceAche. Won't let you anywhere near it. Because, of course, they know that we've broke the spell. We know what you're doing, you bunch of tossers. But more importantly, it's all about getting the white males out there conscripted. Because Abdul's not going to be going into army. Oh, it's religion. My banker, Imam, says I can't go to fight this war. We voted in the bunch of shitbags that went to war against our own last time. We blew it. And we've done it again because we want the free money. Because that's all we care about, free money. We're not bothered about anything else as long as we get the free money. And the mosque wants the free money because then the mosque can extort the Muslim communities and say, give us that free money and give it to the mosque. And they'll lend it interest-free to the minions to go and buy more and more property that belongs, or should belong, to us natives. So there's basically the game. It's just a load of shit. It's bankers. All bankers pretending to be religious. You've got Francis over there, CEO of the Vatican corporate state set up by the fascists, telling everybody, no, it's good, you must allow these immigrants to come in because it's good. Now, I'm starting to think here, I'm thinking, so what's God telling? What's he trying to tell you? Is he saying, look, and all these fucking immigrants are subhuman, demented and retarded, but just look at what you lot did in 2020. They're still fucking smarter than you. That's why we're pulling them in. And I think, well, is that what going down? I don't know, but they're queuing up. They're back queuing up. These baby boomers. What a sad generation, I have to say, the majority of them. And that disease has spread to my generation because they were our mum and dad, you know what I mean? It's like, whoa. And then younger generation, raving. And that's just completely annihilated the younger generation. And they're scared of wind and rain. And sun, even. Why? Because Telly says. And Greta Thunberg tells them, shit yourself, because it's climate change. Even though it's geoengineering everywhere. Being sprayed at night and giving you all these coughs and snotty noses. But these towers are now pumped on every night and they're operating and opening these pathogens that you all had stuck in you in 2020. Apparently. I mean, I don't know. I'm not trained. So I'm not giving you advice. I'm just suggesting that this is what some of these guys out there in the alternative media land are actually suggesting might be going on. But of course, I'll leave it to you. Your fine minds to make the decision as to whether that's true or not. Because we just haven't got a clue here in the Wise Asylum. Because we only deal in wisdom. we don't really get too involved in La La Land. That's for the lunatic asylum, which is the world out there, not in the wise asylum. Right, so that's that. Now, who's in? And then we'll have a little shufty. This data just helped cement the mechanic that's going on by all these hoity-toits that you've always held in high regard as something fantastic because they wear a fucking suit. Because they wear a suit and they have a nice car and a nice house and they talk posh. Well, that's to hide the fact that they're a right bunch of Johnny-come-latelys, scamming the living daylights out of you. And if they're even smarter than that, they've actually all started to realise that, oh my God, are they trapped? They've trapped themselves, thinking they were better, taking oaths to this fake monarch and his son, who's been banging the living daylights out to P. Diddy's bottom, and vice versa. Oh dearie heck. Now, has Shaggy Bill been to Diddy's parties? And Katie, because of course Katie came killing kittens, so she's already halfway there. The best mate runs the biggest brothel going for hoity-toits. So I'm wondering, is the next phase coming out? It's Shaggy Bill and his Flossie Kate, who might or might not be still alive, because we don't know. Have they been diddied at Diddy's parties? Oh my word. What a diversion it is, isn't it? It's just getting worse. And it's just getting worse for all these big boys that are tough as fuck. Rappers telling you all, be naughty, be bad, do drugs, see women as bitches and whores. Actually, it's because a lot of them these days are. But even so, you boys should know better, because all you've actually done is fill the prisons. And these prisons belong to the same people that actually funded all these rappers to fill the prisons and then give these rappers, if they get to Jay-Z's level, shoes in them prisons. So, of course, what's that word I'm looking for? There's a phrase, it's called, I can't remember. It's vested interest in corrupting your offspring and having them thinking that they're black, they're gangsters, and they're honest folk. Yet, they're all bumming each other stupid. They're wearing dresses, furry cakes. And it gets a little bit worse than that because they seem to have people in there that are just a little bit too young to be taking part in these kind of Diddy parties. But that's what seems to be coming out everywhere, and it's quite entertaining, I have to say. Very laughable. But then, of course, being a musician, I'm quite well aware of how it works anyway, so it's not like I've ever been fooled. But, of course, the masses always are. But never mind that. There you go. Lots of Diddy party shit going on everywhere. Who's next to be outed on the old Diddy scene, I wonder. So, Benefactor says, hi Sean and everyone, hello to you, Benefactor. Mew says, hello Wise Asylum and Sean. Hello, Mew. Slipknot says, alright Sean, Jacqueline and everyone, good evening to you, Slipknot and Jacqueline. Billy Bob, finally, with the halos on, and 3 of them. Hello, Billy Bob. David Gregg says, evening Sean and the Seekers. Oh, good evening to you. Jerry says, alright Sean, and all in the Wise Asylum, good evening to you, Jerry. Liam Treacy says, hello Sean, hello to you, Liam. And me says, the sun is in the sky and it's shining above you. It is, and I see it every day, unless they've been squirting out of them airplanes. But then, you know it's still there because you can see. You know the sun's shining because you can actually see. So when all these fruit bats keep going on about saying it's disappeared, and somebody was saying moon disappeared, well, I've seen it every day, and it were huge when it come up at full moon to the day. Diversions, and a lot of people suck into it. Oh, the moon's been pinched. Aliens. The aliens have nicked the moon. Oh, what are we going to do? Well, I think if the moon fucked off, we'd all be in a better place, because it's dark, it's nasty, sinister and deceptive. So, off you go the moon. We don't actually need you. Go away. Paul says, good evening, Sean and fellow inmates. Good evening to you, Paul. Upward Dog. Oh, a new name. Good evening, everyone. Hello, Sean. I hope you're all doing well. Well, I am. I hope you're doing well, and evening to you upward. PY Music says, good evening, Sean, and all. Good evening to you, Paul. Have you got your teeth yet? Weefy Man says, evening all. Evening to you, Weefy Man. And me says, I've got the Holy Grail. Have you now? You're not a Templar there by any chance, are you? Me, we. Okay. The Lone Rizzler says, I had a very interesting 3-day SIA update this week on terrorism and pandemics. Was Masonic as FK? Please tell us more there, the Lone Rizzler. Because they're employing any prick with these SIA licences, aren't they? And if you've looked at what they're doing in Northern Ireland in this bill, well, all these Johnny-come-lately immigrants that have come in there from the old depths of Africa and Kazakhstan and Turkey, all of a sudden they're going to be running around with SIA licences, or SIA licences. So what, unkies and you black boys? It's about time you started to ring with that and started to realise that actually England sanctions militia. And you do happen to be on England, by the way. No, nothing against the law on here, it's all within the law. And England sanctions militia. It's as simple as that. And anybody that's breaching English law can be dealt with. The wicked man, if you go to the Bible, can also be dealt with, regardless of what religion they think they have. And their God said this. If you are showing yourself a wicked man on the land, off with your head. Isn't that the old saying? You're on Blighty? Off with your head! Anyway, where are we here? So we need to know more, Lone Rizzler, on the SIA updates on terrorism and pandemics. Because I can see clearly this terrorism malarkey is shifting onto white honky. And internet terrorists that say the truth on their face ache and then shit the pants because they don't know anything about law and get put in prison. Oh dear. Oh dearie fucking heck. Do you know what? I'm so glad I'm an Englishman, mate. I couldn't... Oh. I wouldn't mind being an American. I like Americans. I like Canadians. Australians. New Zealanders. There's not that many in Europe I like, because they're all a bit fruitcake. Although, I have a major respect for the Slavs, because they are men, males, and they stand up for themselves, and they haven't lost touch with history. In fact, the Slavic region and nations and people are probably the most educated on history than any other race in Europe. Which is why they keep getting hammered. Yugoslavia, prime example. And everything that's been going on since, Ukraine included. So, Ulick says, now then, Sean, now then to you, Ulick. What a name. What is your real name? Your mummy did not call you Ulick, did she? You're fibbing. I'm sure you're telling fibs. Me said, good watch, Knights Templar of Vatican are not what you think. Well, interesting. A couple of years ago, I did on a live stream and I was talking about a specific book. The Sword, the Mitre and the Cloister. You remember that? And I was saying that in 909 AD, the Carolingians began to take over the monasteries after the Merovingians had been shut off, the Trojans. Okay, the Merovingians were the Trojans, Carolingians were something else, which is Charlemagne. Now, at the time, the elites were having major problems because primogeniture puts everything in the hands of the firstborn male, okay? That's primogeniture. But of course, these hoity-toits were having babies left, right, centre. And so they were having more boys than just the oldest. And they were having a lot of trouble with their second, third and fourth sons. So what did they do? They shoved them into the monasteries. Starting at Chalon in Burgundy, the Cluny monastery. That's where it all began. And once they got into that monastery, these hoity-toits, They reversed the Benedictine doctrine on land ownership and property, so they could actually own it. So that's what was going on in the monasteries from 909 AD. Now, of course, where do these knight orders come from? They come out of the monastic system. So, your Templars or your Hospitallers that were first, and your Templars, your Teutonics, and the rest, were all made up of the second, third, and fourth offspring of the Hoity-toits. So they weren't there for Jesus, and they weren't there for you. They were there going against the firstborn who had been given the entire estate. They weren't happy, so they decided to nick it. And this is what were happening as they gained power. Now, Sean Ross touched on this to a point, not quite as detailed as that, but that he did touch on it. So he's obviously, by his own research, understood the same concept, that this is what was actually happening. This is where your knight orders come from. But of course, they ultimately served the elite Holy See families, because even though they were second, third, and fourth sons, the elites at the top of the game love to create conflict. Division is the only way that they can keep the power. So, causing a conflict between the firstborn of the estate and the kingdom and the jealous offspring, brothers, they played it like an harp, did they not? And what do you see all over everybody's coat of arms? An harp or a lyre, as you might say. That's what he's saying. Who's twinkling the earth? Yeah, Piper stuff. Anyway, so, yeah, and I forgot why we got on that. Knights Templar of the Vatican are not what you think. Well, they're not. Because they're certainly not what's been portrayed, you know? Most people know of the Templars, what came out on these films. Dan Brown and then all the offshoots that came about these conferences that came out, and all these people who are experts on fucking Templars. Well, no, there was a major rift there between second, third, and fourth born kids and the firstborns, and battle commenced. But still, the beneficiaries of all that angst would have been the elite families, the hidden royalty of the Holy See families, of course. Medici being, I would suggest. Medici Farnese. Because Medici sort of put itself into the background and pretended it didn't exist anymore. That's what they did. Well, that's because they had the power. Catherine de Medici had the power in the day. She was never a queen herself, but she controlled the monarchs, and it's disappeared into the background. Because why? Well, she had the best mate, called Michael de Nostradamus, and he told her everything she needed to know, and she, of course, obeyed what he said. And today we have a full aristocracy on Blighty, bastard kids of Charles II, and ultimately Maria de Medici. So the Medicis are the aristocracy here, and they're in full control of the fake monarch called King Charles III. While we're on that subject, have a look at this. So, Order of the Bath, have you ever given it thought as to what that actually is? It's not that they all get in bath and they're clean. It's nothing to do with that. So the Royal Bathory Dragon family. Okay? So it goes beyond Vlad the Impaler. It says, a dragon family who served as grandmasters in Emperor Sigismund's Order of the Dragon are the Bathories. Although most people tend to think of Dracula and his family as the rulers of Transylvania, in truth, this honour belongs to the House of Bathory, who were the principal dragon family and rulers of Transylvania during the 16th and 17th centuries. The Bathory dragon family was originally founded by Bricius Bathory, a member of the Gut-Killed clan of Hungarian nobles. So this is Huns. That originated in the German Duchy of Swabia. Strategic unification between the dragon families of the House of Bathory, Lusignan and Basarab, the family of Dracula, have occurred on numerous occasions, including Vlad III's or Dracula's first marriage to Snezhna Bathory. You know, what the kind of a name's that? You can tell it's foreign, can't you? Thus, through the Lusignan and Basrub lines, the Bathories can trace their dragon origins back to the Scythian dragons that emerged out of Central Asia. Central Asia. Go back to Abe Finkelstein's interview. What did he say? That's where they come from. Now, of course, because they're all pretending to be Jewish, when Abe's talking and going, yes, we, and yes, and yes, and yes, you all think he's talking about Jews. But he's not. Because they're not. They're just pretending to be, because they're all operating in the game to keep the three religions in absolute hatred of each other. This is why the Bible says those that call themselves, well, it doesn't actually say that because the word Jew wasn't even mentioned only in one particular place by the Syrians, just to show him the term Judahites. But even so, it references mainly the Judahites that were taken into captivity and came back and built the Second Temple, pretending to be Judahites when in fact they were full-blown Babylonians. There you go. But anyway, we've been through that, haven't we? We've looked at that. And that's from a guy called Mark Pinkham. And there is their sigil in the coat of arms. It's a green dragon with a white claw and what could possibly be a red heart. But I don't know what that red is. And then it's got a red... What is that? I could say an F, but it's not an F. Interesting. I don't know what that is. I don't know what to make of that. And why is its tail looking like 666? I wonder. Interesting. It's a strange dragon that has a tail that's got gaps in it. So I thought that might interest you a little bit. So order of the bath. Who's the biggest bloodbath causers? Who's the biggest killers and mass murdering pigs? Alive today, give them the honour, my lord. So there you go. I think we had a Bathory here as well, weren't she? She was a vampire and she bathed in the blood of virgins. Or something like that. They like that kind of stuff. They do. Because, you know what? Because they're special. And they're ordained by their god. One of the Elohim. Got nothing to do with Big Cheese, just one of the Elohim. Anyway. So there you go with that. Oh my god. Oh, that shot up. Oh, I did shoot up. Stop doing that. It always shoots up like that, like a rocket, and then I don't know where I am. Right. No. Yep. Mew says, hello, my dog. Hello, me. I enjoy your channel, but can't comment. Now, I've tried to comment today. You know that geezer, that geezer from one of the Scandinavian countries, Demic, oh, I don't know, I can't remember his name. It's a bit of a funny name, but he's a nice guy. And they were talking about Assange, and I tried to put all the 3 reports I have of Assange. No, YouTube weren't loving it. So I thought, well, I'll upset them and make them stay there and do some graft. And I'll stay there for about an hour, keep putting them up, just to piss them off. But no, they weren't allowing it. They weren't allowing it at all. But good to see that people are starting to recognise that Assange is not what he sees, but he's going to become the new god. And my guess is he'll be completely on the side of everything that Trump says, because Trump's on the side of everything that Netanyahu says, and Netanyahu is operating for the Rebbe, who's now deceased. But of course, he speaks to him every night before he goes to bed, he buys. AMG Maniac, evening all, good evening Jane, good evening to you AMG. Mew is in the house, that's more powerful than you can possibly imagine. You'll be coming up in a bit, will you, Mew? And I've got the stuff ready for you there, Slipknot. It's all ready and waiting. And thank you very much for the lending of those lamps. But I've actually gone to a new sunbed shop now, and it's got a mixture of suntan gig and red stuff like you let me use. So thanks for that, and they'll be ready for you to come up and pick up the old Mew. Jane Elliot says, good evening, Sean, evening all, and evening AMG. Good evening, Jane. The Lone Rizzler, I'm just about to do the extra module to get my SIA badge back. Have you been naughty? Have you been a naughty boy? Cheers, Mew, but the content is not open to opinions. Keep trolls out, I'm targeted living man. Oh, says me. Well, alright, mate, so... Well, you need to up the spiritual path a little bit, and then you'll be protected. You know, that's the way it works. Because I've had every Tom, Dick and Harry in his flea bag, at one point or another, throw the poo at me. And when I took the Queen to court, I got death threats. Direct. From the Masonic Brotherhood, on behalf of old Queenie. Back in the day. And of course I was supposed to shit myself. But I didn't. I just said, yeah, fuck you. Basically. And I'm still here. I'm still here today. And I don't give a fuck anyway. I'll take my head tomorrow. I've done more than my share. And I've done more than enough. So I'll be content. But I haven't finished. It's as simple as that. Where are we now? Mew says, all good, I don't blame you. Bill Bob says, what I don't get is why they are all gay. Well, we have discussed it. You see, the thing is, what people don't realise with these people is once they start doing that, sodomising each other, they're in like a marriage. Now, I learned this when you so you've got your lower degrees who are just the front for it, but the occult degrees at the back, which is what they were training me for because they thought I would join it. It's what binds them, as if they were in a marriage. And the higher they go, the more they get into that, and then of course that's when they're leaving the wives. And the wives are like, well, what's going on here? I thought you were just super middle class, and all of a sudden you've left me. Well, there you go. It becomes a brotherhood. And it binds them. That's what it is. It's the same, because you're using the same energies that you do with your wife. And it binds you, doesn't it? It's a binding principle, which keeps the family together and strong, and is supposed to prevent anybody else from getting in there. Well, it's the same energy. It's just a different all. So it's a binding principle, and that's why they do it. But also, if they're using it for various reasons, for blackmail, for shame, all these kind of things, you know, I mean, like Epstein and Diddy, clearly using it for blackmail, and it works. This stuff works, you know. So it's always been a very important, but more importantly, what it actually spreads is legion. So I don't know whether you're biblically aware of the man talking about, you know, when he put the spirits into the swine. They are legion, so there's millions of them in the unseen, and that's a way of possession. Now, I knew a guy locally here, and everybody knew him, but not everybody knew what he were up to. And he was a 33 and a third, so he was a top-level Mason. But he was a Satanist, and he used to have bingo. He was like the bingo king, you might say, and he had bingo halls everywhere. Quite a wealthy guy, and he used to spend 6 months of his year on the QE2. And he had what looked like just an innocent bungalow up on the old Willers Lane. But when you... Apparently, no, I never bothered with this guy, obviously, because I just didn't like anything about him. But I know a lot of people that did. And apparently, as you went into this place, it was like a TARDIS. So what it looked like from the outside wasn't what it was in the inside. But what this guy was doing, and this is before Epstein came on the scene, he was doing exactly the same. He was recording everybody and using it for blackmail. But the amount of youngsters he was sodomising, he was passing on the demonic forces that he represented. And he screwed up a lot of people in this town. And there's been a lot of murder, deaths, a lot of suicides. And it goes right into the Tory politicals here as well. You know, I mean, you know, when you're a journalist, like I've been doing for a long time, this is the kind of stuff you need to know. You don't necessarily have to present it all over the show because it's their business. But at the end of the day, you know, the stuff I've learned about how the system works, but locally, it's just ridiculous. But this is why they use it. It's a powerful tool. to bind each other together, but more importantly, it causes shame in people, especially when they find out that they've been recorded. And they've had magistrates under blackmail, and any of the team, the crew gets stuck there in court, and it's that magistrate there, and they're getting off scot-free. But that suggests to me then that even higher up than that, to ensure that magistrate were on for that court case. So then you can see that this guy in particular didn't operate for himself. He were operating for a network much higher up, a point that they could allocate the judges for particular cases. Now, I know it's all different now because it's not so much that they're appointed, they just run around on a bloody thing and turn up and you don't know which judge you're getting if you're a court. But back in the day when it were working properly, when it were a proper system, judges were appointed to particular cases, and basically that's what was going on. So, yeah, I mean, it's a powerful, powerful, powerful weapon, which is why it's as old as time. And that's. Now, you haven't to... I suppose you don't want to be thrusting that on everybody that's an homosexual, because not everybody's involved in it in that sense, but from a political power structure, that's why they use it. So, yeah, there you go. Where are we? Dawn says, "Hey up, beautifuls." Hello, Dawn, and hey up to thee. Lex says, "Evening, Sean and all. Evening, Lex." Me says, "Not out for gain, just to share wisdom." Well, I can't get any gain. They've demonetised me a lot on here. I can't make any cash. Shame, really. I need a new Mac to make short videos, because apparently the younger generations have made it clear that they like what I'm saying, but they can't pay attention because it's too long. They want short videos. So at least the younger generations are at least open, but they just go a rabbit on for too long for them. Their attention span's shit. So yeah, there you go. AMG, I'll be fine, mate. One of my closest friends runs the course. Well, I hope you AMGs and you SIA boys are not going to be operating for the crown when it comes to A lads fucking A, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, so everybody with an SIA licence needs to be watching the Wise Asylum, because there is the militia, and you've got a ticket to say, I can do it. So can you see how this is going to have to play out, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah? Play the game, get the little fancy tickets and trinkets, but make sure your heart is exactly where it needs to be, and that's with fucking England and your own kind. Because when these subcultures kick in, yeah, you get my drift, AMG. So, good stuff. Suplex, you good. Okay. AMG, most of my SAI contacts are serving and ex-military. We're all aware we'll be frontline soon enough. Of course. I mean, I know a plethora of military boys, ex-military, from all, right even up to the old SAS. I can't trust everybody. But let's make no mistake about it. These bunch of tossers that have been commanding our boys forever just to kill them are going to have the shock of their fucking life when this kicks off. And more importantly, all these fucking immigrants that are coming in thinking UN's going to support them, you're in for a shock of your life as well. Because there's more boys on this land trained, especially an older generation, in urban warfare thanks to Northern Ireland, than you would even imagine. And like I said before, if people think the people you have to worry about are the pricks that follow the likes of fucking Tommy Robinson, are the people you have to worry about, think again. They're the gobshites that have nothing but piss, wind, spitting bottles and shouting about them. I'm talking about boys out there that have done combat. Boys out there that know exactly how to take orders and know exactly how to deal with big groups of armed, let's say, private police with the fucking shields and the shit. They've only ever faced hooligans. You've never faced a military force with white faces that know a lot more than they do, Because in the main, most of them coppers couldn't be in military. That's why they're coppers. So, I mean, you know, my worry is that the young uns, all the youngsters are going to be conscripted because their mums and dads are pathetically stupid and retarded and can't be asked to educate them to what's coming and what's going, and couldn't be asked to educate themselves to understand that you do not need to be conscripted by a private for-profit corporation pretending to be government. So that's on mum and dad for born idleness, because they were ravers. And of course they don't need to do that because it's fucking, hey man, we're amazing because we can dance all night, take drugs and see the sunrise. I did it all myself, but I weren't picking up the garbage. I were learning everything else. But that's the attitude the boys and girls that did the 90s have. Well, I'm more fantastic than you because I raved. Yeah, right. Okay, good for you. So, yeah. That's the way it goes. So, the Lone Rizzler, AMGI field are after 6 questions with 4 answers each on video. They also marked 2 of the papers. They're on the prowl too, mate. Just giving you the heads up. I'd have gone that route if I could. Ulick gives it the, ooh, my golly. Well, I mean, I can see the same happening in Ireland, you know? You don't want to fuck with Irish, fuck me. They're hard as fucking nails. But, you see, the biggest problem for Irish is the fact that they always thought the IRA would be there if they were needed. But just go back to 1997. All Blair needed to do was say, I'm now a Catholic, and that was it. Because the fucking entire IRA elite were all ex-fucking SAS. Or associated special forces. And they were used by the Crown to force the governments of the day to the will of the intelligence services. Prime example, the blowing up of the Brighton Hotel with the majority of the Tory cabinet in because they said fuck off to Europe. And that's Thatcher. Yeah? She weren't playing ball. They blew the living daylights out to Brighton and you all believed it when they said it were IRA. When they killed one of them McWhirter twins from Record Breakers, that guy had summoned the Lord Chancellor and said, she can't sign this Europe, it's treason. They ignored him. He summoned the Queen, which you can do. So they made him do a speech about the IRA, killed him and blamed the IRA. That's how they used the IRA, because it were a full-blown unit of British intelligence. And I've met IRLs in the past that have let me know that they've understood that. So a big raft of the old... You see, there was only one IRA, and it was called the Provisional IRA, and they came in response to the provisional government that was set up in Northern Ireland. Provisional IRA was the real IRA, not the real IRA that came after, or the IRA. They were military units, or let's not say military because, you know, I love our military. They were intelligence operatives. The intelligence agencies operate for the Holy See. Remember this. So we're not besmirching our own. We're besmirching the command levels. The same guys that sent all our boys over at trenches at First World War to 100% full-blown annihilation. Same in Germany. Same in France. Same in Holland. All the commanders at that time, this is why they set the First World War off, were all operating for the Holy See. England hasn't been run by England for a fucking long time. A long time. Well, they got took over by Angevins, didn't it, in 1066, for a start. So, but yeah, that's enough of my preaching on that score. But, where are we there? Bathed in lewd blood, exactly. That's the order of the bath, ladies and gentlemen. And the batteries is where it comes from. Where are we here? Oh, it's gone up again. Keeps doing this. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. blah, blah, blah. Ulick says, oh yeah, we've done that, right. The Cleanans have changed the name to Romanov. It's still here. Look, the last Romanov were killed by Catherine the Great. And that were Peter the Third, or Peter the Second, I can't remember. He married her. She was of the Prussians. What's her name? Anhalt. That with the bloodline. Catherine the Great married him, killed him, took over Russia. Then they attacked Crimea and pulled all the Khazars in to Russia, into the pogroms, and trained them in the art of finance to be used by the Rothschilds, who were the court financiers. So when they invaded a country, in came these people and everybody thinks it's Jewish. Even the Jews fucking believe it. Why? Because they accept the Talmud. It's on everybody. Jews accept the Talmud. Christians accept the Talmud, the Zionists. The Muslims, fucking Islam's full of it, the Talmud. But they haven't read it, so they don't fucking know. They're doing what the banker tellers tell them, which is the imams. All operating for the Holy See. And they've all done agreements in Kazakhstan. This is another thing, our military boys. When they load you up with them typhoons, fuck off to Kazakhstan and blow the shit out of it. Just blow the shit out of it. Spoil the fun. Spoil the game. That's the enemy. The enemy is the elites, not you down here on the fucking la land on the streets. Every single one of you, whatever colour, whatever race, creed, whatever you want to call yourself, you have been divided up to serve that up there. Because while you're divided down here, you serve their agendas when they kick things off. Until that changes and people realise that, these guys at the top are going to benefit every time from every move they make. Amen. Because it goes right back to Egypt. Anyway. To say I haven't got much going on tonight, I've got a lot saying. I'm saying a lot, yeah. Gonna watch this cat, says Recycling Gestapo. The Lone Rizzler, lots about Manchester Arena, M&S, they are the retailers involved in the training modules. Emphasis on roving terrorism attacks. Lots on the Who, emphasis on cyber terror. Marks and Spencer's, in its entirety, is Mossad controlled. That's why all the food were good, because it came out of Israel. And that's before they were poisoning Israelis. That's why all deers used to go there. Well, because it was ionised as well. But it were good food, it's not anymore. I've had some bad shit from Marks and Spencer's. So, you know, everything's changing now. But that's why M&S is involved, because it's Mossad. The Lone Rizzler, emphasis on attacks on J's in London and lodges. Well, this is the thing. It's going to turn around. They've brought all these Muslims here since for 70 years to cement communities. Now, the older generations who they just got rid of in this last fantasy, they settled here and they knew that they were here because when where they've come from is a fucking cesspit. You know, my mates told me that, you know, you can't go back to Pakistan from here unless your family are bedded in with the police over in Pakistan. Because the Pakistanis hate you because they just class you as British. So unless you've got real contacts with the police in Pakistan, as a British Muslim, you can't go to Pakistan. It's as simple as that. And the fact that when you get over there, they're the most snidiest bastards. Everybody's trying to shit on everybody else. That's a subculture. But the people that have lived here for long, not all of them, the ones that have got money, they're not. They're asswipes. They're playing the game. But you run-of-the-mill people on the street, your communities that have been here for, 70 years, they've took on the Western ideals. But now it's all going to be, they're going to be gazumped by these fruitcakes that they've dragged in under ISIS, under Taliban, ISIL, Mujahideen before that. So they're going to be uprooted and their communities are going to be turned into the shit show that they left. That's what's happening. Nobody's free from this. We're all being shafted. And they're doing it deliberately because people are starting to wake up to the law side of things and what's actually happening. Well, that's why they're pulling all these in. It's the immigrants that are voting in this bunch of dicks now, these Bolsheviks, again, for the free money. Because the mosque demands it. The mosque gets its money by extorting the community on shame. You don't pay the mosque money, you're outcast. You're outcast. This has been told to me by Muslims. We should, truthfully. Once you get rid of the divisions on religion, on race, with anybody, whether it's blacks and whites, Muslims and whites, Muslims and blacks, once that garbage goes and you're mates, you share properly, because that's what mates do. So when I talk this, I'm not talking, I'm making it up where I've read it. This is what they told me. What is it like? Because I used to say, what is it like being a Muslim? Here. And they told me. Fucking how it worked, because they can't go back over there because they're despised. And they feel like they're despised here. Not so much now because they've got the numbers. And I can see the shift, you know, they're getting excited, blah, 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 blah. And that's dangerous. It's very fucking dangerous. But that's the plan. That's what it's all about. This is how immigration's been used. You go back to the Assyrians if you want to look at this strategy. This is how the Assyrians did war. And they were one of the most potent Persian-esque forces ever to study outside of Rome. So previous to Rome, the Assyrians were absolutely mighty in the military tactics. They were everything that you can think of. They pretty much, if they didn't invent it, they certainly used it. And immigration and mass movement of peoples was the main method of keeping control, because if you invade one country and then influx a load of others, the natives can't form together again to defeat the invading force. That's how they use immigration. So it's not a new thing. It's as old as fucking time. There's a lot going on in Manchester I'm not seeing. That guy, there's a guy goes round up streets, what's he called? He's an old guy. He used to be around 15 years ago. He were part of a duo that called themselves the Love Police. They were really good. I can't think of his name offhand. And I've been watching him, he's been going around there. And it's immigrants and drug addicts. Because there's intel on the streets as soon as Charlie Veach. So as soon as he's seen on the streets by the cameras, intel's out, and they're giving meth heads money. Go and attack him. So these cities, these 15 minutes, this is where they're building these shit shows. And it's all intel run. I mean, and I experienced this when I first started doing this way back in 2001. So I'd put things together on my website and then I'd leaflet everywhere. And I were in town. I'd go in town. And the first time I did it, I'll never forget it. So I'm leafleting on Broadway in town. And it was hard at first because, like, you're a bit shy. You don't want to just start sticking your nose in people's fucking thing. But what I found was, once I'd give them to a couple and they were ready, other people would go up to them and go, what's that? They go, So people were coming up to me and saying, can we have one? So, yeah. So it became very easy, but straight away, out at Globe Centre, out came all these fucking men in black. Not men in black, it was fucking fruit bats, but playing that game. And they were all huddled up in old doorways at shops. So I sussed it really quick. So I went right up to them to fuck them up, you know. You don't want them, shit themselves. And then they never did that again because they knew I could see them. And that's way, way back. It missed the time that happened. So I thought, fuck this, I'll start. And I just used to put them on under everybody's windscreen. Everywhere. And in a day, you can get rid of like 10,000 leaflets just by putting them on people's cars. So if the internet goes down and they censor it to a point you can't get your data out, that's where you go. Get your data, get your URL, and stick them under everybody's fucking things. And in car parks, you can't go wrong. Hundreds of people. And it takes you 10 minutes. And that's how I started off. And it worked. It fucking worked a treat, believe me. So if they start fanning around with internet, let them go back to that. Go back to that. Because then they're fucked. And if they, put attention to internet touch point, you go back to CDs. Like it were when we started. People had put their presentations on a CD and hand them out, or we sell them. A couple of quid. And it funded the more CDs, and it worked. It worked a treat, but as the internet grew, then everybody just got lazy and thought, fuck it, let's go on internet. But it weren't really getting lazy because everybody were getting on the internet, so you could do what you were doing that way easier by pressing buttons. And so whatever they do, you can always fuck them because everything they're doing is wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? It's bullshit, it's garbage, it's not divine. It's the divine's will, the bloodline, but it's not divine. Where we go? Emphasis on Jays in London. Yeah, because it's going to turn around. As soon as Trump gets in, he's made it very clear how he's going to deal with people that are attacking Israel. You're fucked. You're fucked. And, you might say, well, that's not fair. Why is it not fair? Egypt, Saudi Arabia, nobody will take in these Palestinians. You know why? Because they're psychopaths. But, oh no, we'll put him in on our streets. Oh yeah, we'll put him here on our streets. Yeah. Because that's the plan. That's the plan. They're moving terrorists every fucking where. They're moving psychopaths, brain-dead idiots everywhere. I watched a film last night, which I've watched before. I don't like the guy, but it's the best film I've ever seen him in, and that's Tears of the Sun. What's he called? I can't remember his name. We were married to Demi Moore. It's the best film he's ever done. Have you seen what they've done in Africa to these kids? And these kids are psychotic. They've been spreading them everywhere. We're in for some fun and games, people. Believe me. Believe me. And their intention is to give all these dickheads these SIA licenses. These dickheads that are coming in on these fucking big super boats. Who's giving them boats? But then you're not seeing all these 6,000 and 7,000 that are coming in on planes every day. They've got you focused at boats. No, they're all coming in by plane. UN. But it's all they see. Where are we there? AMG, I had a mate ring me 6 months ago that I told 12 years ago we'll be shooting each other in the street one day. He's gone from thinking I'm nuts to agreement. Well, we don't want to be shooting each other. Do it. We look for the wicked men. But first we have to check all the weapons off these dicks first. Remember, there's got to be strategy going on first. First, see, we're all right, we're disarmed. But first we have to arm. And the only way you're going to do that is to take them off these dicks. First rule of this game today is if you're doing an attack, you first have to create a diversion somewhere else. And when they get the phone out, knock that phone out their head. Because they're calling in. You've got to think militarily when you're looking at this stuff. And you have to plan stuff. This is why Tommy Robinson's brigade are useless. They don't know their arse from their fucking elbow. You need men that think strategy, that understand military strategy, how things work, or how you win. How you win. That's the way. So you don't sit here shitting yourself. You think, okay, they keep going, they keep fucking going. But everybody out there is talking. Not on the internet, and not when they've got telephones. And not anywhere near these towers. But there's a lot of people now know what's going to have to be done. And it's not because of me or anything like that. I just know these people, and these people know everybody, and that's across the country. Across the country. Even into Scotland. I don't know that Wales is anything in that way, but then it's just full of sheep, innit? But, yeah, now, where the military boys are, I don't know. They're actually in the military. I don't know. But they're off playing, NATO's grabbed them and took them away. Purposefully. Purposefully. You've got to see it like this. This is all military that's going on here today. We're under occupation. But we did the occupation videos about 3 years ago, remember? Occupation has rules. And I think we'll go over them again very shortly, just to remind you what actually the rules are under military occupation. Because you have rights. David says, bloody sorry. Blood sorry. Oh yeah, we understood what you meant, David, don't worry. Lauren Risley says, I just want paying for walking my dog a few shifts a week. It's done it again. Keeps running up. Benefactor says, Apple. Apple? Go on, you'll have to explain that one, Beneficiary. AMG, same as that, mate. Just recently bought a Duchy to add to my GSDs. Lone Rizzle, the dragon thing's tail was similar to the male symbol. Lone Rizzler, just buying a GSD. Got a Rottie that was never meant to work, but she's half tidy. The Shepherd will be a different story, lol. YouTube won't allow links shown on any channel as far as I have tried. Well, yeah, I mean, the bang hammering down. Well, what they called? YouTube, Facebook, all of them are being run by the Anti-Defamation League. That's on record in a video where they're saying they're all the CEOs of all these platforms have been told what to do by Beneficiary Anti-Defamation League, ADL rather. So there you go. That's how it works. Won't allow links yet. Slipknot says to you, sure. No worries there, Trev. I'll message you when we're both free. Got some graft to sort, no problem. I'm free Mondays, Thursdays and Fridays. Just keep that in mind, brother. Anthony says, what a statement. I absolutely love you, Sean, my good man. Fuck 'em and fuck fear. A man after my own heart. Precisely. What the fuck is the point in them being afraid? You know, nobody gets out of here alive. Nobody. You can either die in your fucking bed or go out in a blaze of fucking glory. It's better to burn out than to fade away, motherfucker. You know, that's the attitude. What? That's male. You need some Shilajit. Get that testosterone back. You don't need to fucking juice up. That's Shilajit. I've got a new one. That one. Oof. Fucking hell. Guys, morning fucking glory. I'll send them more. As you know, when you get an age, it doesn't tend to happen as much. Fuck me. It's not just happening at morning glory, it's you're getting up in the middle of the night. Wait. It's raising you off the bed, man. If you get my drift. Shilajit. Get into it, boys, because that'll put your testosterone right back up. And that's the way you fight. It's poisoning the food and all this shit if you're taking the happy pills. Just stop taking the fucking happy pills is the best one. And work out how you can mitigate the amount of shit you put in your body. Thanks for that, Anthony. Do you go to Satis at all, AMG? No, mate, I used to breed, so do my own training based on the South Coast. I'm too old for Mallies. Herders, lol, awesome dogs are the best. Definitely won't be operating for the Crown. I think there's very few that fucking will be, mate. To be honest. At least then they're awake. But that's all we need to concern ourselves with. What the fuck do we care about the fucking retards? What do we care? We don't. They've shown themselves for what they are. Complete and utter waste of shit. Useless. No use to anybody, only the Crown. Because they'll do as they're fucking told. And that's it. We have no care for these people anymore. But we do need to care for our women folk, if they're not stupid. And the youngsters. Because they're innocent of all this, and they've been fucked up by the system and by their own fucking illiterate parents. So that's where we are. Blighty, the land, and the colours. And that's it. Fuck the rest. Fuck them. That's what I say. And that's swearing. But I'm a male. And we do like to swear. Where are we? I have much more in common with the travellers than my employers. It's easy money and suits van life. Well, yeah. I mean, they're fucking men. They're males. They're males. Where are we? Anthony Musgrove. Fibua. F-I-B-U-A. Where are we? Jerry says 100% Sean. Absolutely. A couple of brigades held out. Well, they're still there. And they just need to now reform. But then it's about the people realising that actually you can't rely on any of them bastards anymore because they got bought out in 1997. And it's time to reform quietly. And I can see it. I can see it. Look, I know the travellers here, the gypsies, some of them. There's fucking tons of them. The networks are already in situ. From here across to Ireland. It's there. It's done. It's in. Because war's coming, whether we like it or not. It's not like we're all saying, like, well, we want it, we want it. We can see what's happening. We know what's coming. You can either lie down like a coward, like most people, or you can be ready for what's coming. You know, regardless of whether we're left or not. As long as them that are still here know what needs to be done. Where are we? Davina says, I don't accept it. Good for you, Davina. Happy Camper says, evening to you, Happy Campers. We not you, says Andrea. We not you. What does that mean, darling? Davina O'Connor, Jerry. Oh, God, grief, that's quite a lot of emojis going down there, Davina. Jerry says, it looks like this was a deal brokered when they were making the move on Syria. It's all about creating a controlled conflagration of nuclear capacity in the Middle East to shit everybody up so that they can shut everybody down in the West under martial law. Listen carefully.
It starts with Israel attacking Iran. The plan is for either Iran or for China to retaliate after Iran is struck with a nuclear weapon. At that point, there will be a limited nuclear exchange in the Middle East, followed by a ceasefire. He heard this being planned in this meeting. This is being choreographed. The idea is that as the world looks upon this with horror, then they will demand from their governments that there are heavy controls over travel, over communication, over people who meet, over people who protest in the streets. And because people will be driven into fear by this, they'll request and demand and insist on heavy controls from their governments, which will be justified. And this is where you're going to kind of get the martial law situation in all the Western countries.
Think quite carefully about the description. Think quite carefully about the description. Think quite carefully about the description.
Say no. white male goes to war. The women will be left to the subcultures.
To think quite carefully about the description.
They simply say no. And that's what we all should do. Because this will end if we simply say no. Simply say no. And that's what we all should do. Because this will end if we simply say no. And that's what we're here to do today. They simply say no. And that's what we should do. Because this will end if we simply say no.
If the white male goes to war, the women will be left to the subcultures.
And this is where you're going to kind of get a martial law situation in all the Western countries. And then, he said, then the real war starts.
That's the plan. That is the plan. So, we're aware of it, aren't we? That's all that matters. What more can we say? Bruce Willis, that's the guy. I don't like him, but that's his best film. It's a fucking excellent film, that. But just look at what they've done to Africans down in there. It's and they're pumping them everywhere. It's sad. It really is. Charlie's coming up under attack, Charlie Veach. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a good lad, is Charlie. I remember him way back. They were a duo called Love Police. And they took the internet by storm, I tell you. But it was sad about the other guy, what happened to him, in truth. Maybe Charlie might want to talk about that, because it's important that people today know what happened to his mate. And I don't think there's any of the Love Police stuff anywhere out there these days, but they were amazing. Amazing. It showed you, actually, that aggression is not the way if you want to break down people's barriers. They were amazing. Absolutely, all over London they were. Really good stuff. So if Charlie gets a wind of this, Charlie, maybe you want to do something where you can talk about your mate. If so, you can come on here. I'll interview you on here and you can talk about those times when you and your mate did that Love Police, because it were a phenomenal thing. And it were good that it took over the entire internet. It really were. Davina says, okay, with a snapping Mew says, Elena Freeman on Sheep Farm Studios this week. Interesting data on harp, among other gigs. Where are we? Jerry says, I wouldn't play paper, rock, scissors with you. Who are you talking to? Cheers, Mew. I'll have a look. Only just found out about it in the North Wales. In North Wales, the Lone Rizzler says, Davina, you might get... where are we? Benefactor says, the crest from Dracula, apple. Okay. Never thought of that. And the apple is very important, is it not, in Kazakhstan? Ooh, I say. Yeah, good thinking there, Benefactor, yeah. Andrew says, evening all, a long time no see. Where's Tab been, lad? Have you been playing truant from the old Wise Asylum? Sean says, what's your recommended source for Silogit resin? Well, to be honest, from what I've looked at, what you need, it needs to say that it's pure, because there's different ways they process it in the Himalayas themselves. And if it's got pure on it, it's done in the correct way, and that maxes out the minerals. Now, if it's not pure, you run the risk, if it hasn't been properly processed, that you can screw your liver up with a lot of metals. You can get it fixed in there. So there's quite a lot out there. I mean, this one's Altai. I only got it yesterday. It's very good. The other one that I've been using was that. Shilly Jack Gold. You can't really see it, can you? Why is it doing that? That's it. Which I found to be excellent. But I've started to use this new one. It's got a different taste as well, so I do think it might be more potent. So basically, you want to go for something that's pure. It says, it has it on it, pure Shilly Jack, because that's referencing that it's actually been processed correctly. So you get max out of it, but more importantly, you're not sticking loads of metals in your liver. Now, I just take one a day. That's all you need. One a day, that's it. Now, the way I take it, there's all sorts of it, but I don't really care. I used to do it at 90s. I've stuck all sorts in my mouth with taste like you won't believe. So a bad taste don't bother me. So I just put it on my tongue and I melt it in my saliva so it's a liquid. Then I just whap it down with a glass, a gobful of the old mineral. And I find that to be fine, because I actually don't really mind the taste. It's not that bad. It's not the best, but it's not that bad. So that's what I'd suggest there, Anthony. More powerful than you can possibly imagine, says me. Not sure what that's relating to. You Wagwan bro. No, don't get that neither. Sean Jerry Davina. I missed something. I've missed your private combo, I think. Andrew. Well, see. Hello, Kieran. Andy says, I've been busy having heart attacks. Well, what the fuck have you gone doing that for? That's not impressing anyone, is it? You need to stop having heart attacks, lad. What the fuck? I'm there. What are you doing? What are you doing, lad? You'll be watching that porn, are you? Knocking them out, too many. You're losing life force. Behave yourself. Not, of course, that you might be doing that, I don't know, but you need to stop having heart attacks immediately, with immediate effect. It's part of the rules of being in the wise asylum. You're not allowed to have heart attacks or anything like that. It's detention. It really is. It's a serious... it's on rules. It's in the rules that I sent you psychically when you enter the wise asylum, you know. What are you using colloidal metals for? Well, I have got tons of it here, colloidal silver. What are you using colloidal metals? Do you want the biometric mapping systems on you? I don't give a toss what they do, kid. I couldn't care less. They've tried everything on fucking planet with me. I don't give a shit, me. I'm fucking concrete. I don't care. So I don't care. They can put biometric systems on me. They can map me with aliens and all sorts. I don't give a shit. I don't run around caring a toss. The only thing I care about is what I eat. And that's it. Rest, I don't care. Big Cheese has got my back. Night, Paul. Take it easy, mate. Right, now, so I did say we'd have a look at some of this stuff that I've been... So it's just data that's come in, but it just gives another explanation as to what's going on with these trespassers. They're converting your system into their beneficial position, and it's... So basically, just look at it in these terms, right? So, equity. The equitable title is the beneficial title, okay? So at all points, you want to be holding the equity. Now, the legal title, and I mean, I know some of you probably know this anyway, but it's the legal title that is legally responsible, and thus puts whoever's holding the legal title is the trustee, all right? So it's really imperative that you get that. There's two titles, equitable title and legal title. And what you don't want to be holding is the legal title. Now, what they do when they're playing a game, and what they do is they merge the two titles in you. So when you come in, as soon as you've signed it off, you've come in on the surname, you've automatically got the equitable title as the natural absolute beneficiary, okay, in the trust system. At all times. But when you go in there on the surname, you are merging the two. And when you merge the two, it dissolves your equitable title and sticks you on the legal title only. And the Crown takes de facto beneficial title. So it takes the equity title by automatically. Did you understand that? Because it's a concept that you need to, if you can see it in your mind's eye, you can see the mechanic that they're playing. So I'll run through that again. The equitable title is the beneficial side of things. That's where the benefits come to, okay? The legal title is the trustee's position. So you don't want to be holding the legal title. It's the surname that presents you as the legal title, okay? Your given name, you call in, if you will, that's the credit. That's the equity. And as soon as they conjoin it with that surname, they've merged the two titles, equity and legal. And in their twisted system, automatically then by default, it dissolves the equity title of yours and shifts to the Crown. Yeah? And me says, you as trustee of the living have a fiduciary duty. You as trustee of the living. Right, explain that, me, a bit more. Give us a bit more on that, Cooker. Now, equity trumps legal, therefore. Okay, so you want to be holding that equity. You don't want to give that away. And there's where they trick you see. Because it's the surname, which is owned by the Vatican, fixes you to the concept, the human. You're a monster. They're going to shag you all over it, sure. Now, again, I've just said the name conjoined with the surname represents the legal title. Okay, so it's the surname's the legal title. your given name or calling, is the credit, is the equity. Yeah? And they set this trust system up, remember. And they set it up, so they're responsible, because who creates owns. But they play that deception to flip you and take away your equity and shift you entirely into the legal. Jerry says the logbook. So while you're not the name, you're still legally tied to it as a trustee because you've signed it off. You've come in on it. Yeah. Now there's a bit of a discrepancy on the term individual in relation to which Bill of Rights it's operating under. Now, we looked at the Bill of Rights a little bit before, didn't we, where he talks about that in the proper person and that the estates of the people are going to be administered by Parliament. So I'm wondering, is that the first point of shifting us off man, so that the Bill of Rights, English Bill of Rights, in effect, could be, but I'm not sure. Because as I said, in this way, it's only just come this week. I've got to think about it. I've got to apply it to other data that I already know to see if there's a twist in that. So I want to go back to the Bill of Rights, English Bill of Rights, and just to see if actually that's the point at which Parliament were given the role of administrating, which means if you go in on the surname, it automatically reverts the beneficiary side to the Crown. So Bill of Rights, English Bill of Rights could be a little bit dodgy. We have to give that more research. And the term individual is only found in Income Tax Act and bankruptcy and insolvency. The term individual. So you don't want to be an individual under the Commercial Act. So in my descriptives, when I'm writing, I just make sure we're not an individual. We're none of those terms. Anything that's got ambiguity, we either don't put it in, or we separate ourselves from, or we define the word as we're using it in our interpretations. Do you see what I'm saying there? So if we can not use it, brilliant. If we have to use it because we have to separate ourselves from it, like person, we will, but we'll define the word person in the interpretations so that we're telling them what we mean by the use of that word in this communication. Yeah? So once you start to think in these terms, then you can start to write your stuff yourself. You only need to look outside there for hints. You don't copy verbatim, which is what all these so-called experts have got you thinking you have to do, is copy. Or let them do it for you. And in most cases, they're making the money and you're getting shafted. In most cases. Not all, in most. Which is why it's imperative you learn this stuff yourself so that you fully grasp what it is you're doing. And if it doesn't fit with what you saw on YouTube, somebody else, fine. If you know that what you've done is right, you don't want to be listening to them. You know then that they're either not up to scratch or they're shilling and leading you astray. So me says, as man with legal entity attached at birth created the legal person, public and private don't mix, but acting as fiduciary for the living man have duty, so beneficiary the man to benefit. So are you talking in relation to seeing the surname or legal title as the principal and you're only acting as an agent? Is that what you're saying there, me? Because if that's what you're saying, I get that. Jerry says, individual in device dual to, of which one are you? Well, we just don't use it. We don't use those terms. See, I've shifted it now to I who is. Yeah? And I've briefly explained why that before. It goes back to transcendentalism. But then when we looked at the correct interpretation of Genesis 1, by using Aleph instead of Beth, it solidifies completely. Because I am is relating to the Elohim, and specifically Jehovah, who's just one of the Elohim, as is Allah, Odin, and the raft of gods that we know. But they're not all bad, let's get it right, you know? There's battle goes on there all the fucking time. Between them, it's history, basically. It's why temples get snotted. It's gods doing, these Elohim doing battle against each other. But when you get into the correct translation of Genesis 1, no, it's the Father of the beginnings who created the Elohim. So the ultimate creative force, or Father, if we use the biblical tradition, which we need to because that's what runs everything, you wouldn't be invoking that with I am. You would not be invoking that ultimate Father figure with I am. So I don't use it anymore. I use I who is, in the image of. Yeah. Anthony says, preamble of the BOR. We do lawfully, fully and freely administer the estates of the people. So to my mind, they have preempted everything after that fact. I would absolutely agree with you there, Anthony, 100%. I'm now starting to think that in the use of the Bill of Rights is... Now, I suppose you could invoke it as long as you keep equity. Now, weren't there an old guy going on about equity quite a few years ago? And I did talk to him on the phone, but he were a little bit... I think I were a bit too northern for him. He was a bit of a posh guy. But he was... I can't remember his name, and I have got some of his stuff on my website. I can't remember his name. Edward... So, yeah, I can't remember his name. But he's been... what he was trying to get across to everybody is equity trumps legal. But he was going through so much data, I couldn't understand what he was on about. And so I tried to talk to him to see if he could simplify it. But I think I was a bit too thick northern for him. He couldn't cope with it. So, anyway. Solve miss. Hello there, me old China. I who is, nice. Yeah. I who is in the image of the Heavenly Father. Because that way then you're moving yourself away from the assumed Father, which is the Pope. So I've changed the way that I present myself, the standing. Yeah. And then, of course, you are the settling absolute beneficiary. Distinct from the estate, sometimes called Mr. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, yeah, it's... so you have to think like this for yourself and apply it. Apply it. Because if you know what you're saying is correct, and every point you look at to see, does it add up, you're in business. You're starting to have power in your words. Do you know what I mean? Davina says, do the man that call themselves women. No, because when you get into Genesis 1, it's created man, male, female, created he them. So man is a descriptive of the male and the female. When you get into woman, you're into the garden, this second creation of this fucking crazy God that thinks he belongs and owns everything, as long as you contract. So, I mean, I've done this before, Davina, but if you've not been following for long, I've gone through specifically the fact that Genesis 1 isn't understood correctly. You only have to apply yourself to the words to see. And he says, you created man, male, female, created he them. So man denotes male and female, not woman. Woman's something that's created for Adam, who, according to the Jewish topmost doctrine, is the unnecessary man, because he was running around the garden shagging every animal. This is why they created Eve, because his first wife, Lilith, said she wasn't having it. So the reason why they created Eve was because he was shagging all the animals in the garden. So Adam and Eve is a secondary creation. It's got nothing to do with Genesis 1. But the way the Bible presents it, it looks like it's one story. It isn't. But unless you use that intellect and apply that to what you're reading and not the narrative that you've had thrown down your neck since you were a flea bag, you won't see it. But once you see it, you can't not see it. And when you can read that as much as you want, you will see the truth of it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I try not to get too biblical on things sometimes because it pisses people off. But it's when you're studying law, the first thing you recognise when you get in there is that it's all based in biblical. Everything. So you have to touch it. Adam and Steve. Well, you see, the Jewish law at the top is that Adam is unnecessary, the unnecessary, and he has to be destroyed. Because their real Adam is Adam Kadmon. Is it Adam Kadmon? I can't remember now. There's an ultimate Adam that they love. And it's not Adam of the garden. Let's have a look here. Me says, no, a fiduciary has authority at law. Okay. A person has no authority at law, but a fiduciary does. Okay, that's interesting, me. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Because I've appointed the CEO of the receivers, insolvency receivers, as fiduciary trustee and building for 4 million. Because he's a naughty boy. And all his little minions are very naughty too. Yeah, so interesting. I'm going to have a take a look at that. Thanks, me, for that. Davina says, are the ones who call themselves them, they, as good as calling themselves Legion? Yeah, because that's what's possessed them. Legion, as a take in them, they've breached a spiritual law. Now, that doesn't mean say you can't pull that back. You can. But yeah, it's how Legion is passed. Sodomy. That's why the doctrines have always decried it. And it's not just male to male. This is male to female. It passes. Yeah? Because of the act itself. Now, I've got a piece on my website all about that, and it gets a lot of hits. So, of course, I'm referencing biblical text and tradition on that subject. And it's very interesting because it makes sense in relation to the biblical tradition. Andrew says, Goodism, Andrew, is the man. Goodism, Andrew is the man. Okay. Davina says, not following long, you're right. Not following long, you're right. Right, no problem, chick, no problem. Solomon says, yes, I'm understanding. Good stuff, my man. Me says, them or they are no more than things. Correct, absolutely. Yep. Davina says, was it Adam and Steve? No, it was Adam and Lilith. She said, kiss my ass. And then he shagged all animals in the garden, and they couldn't stop him because he was rampant. And they created Eve, or brought Eve in. Whichever part, because there's a lot of different branches to that story. There's the story that there were a lot of tribes around, and one of the tribes was actually called the Eves, and that they brought one of them in. There's just so many different branches off that story because it's a secondary mimic. It's not real, it's the mimic. Like the Genesis 1 is the earth and the heavens, and the garden is the world, which is controlled by Satan. is it not? Because it's the false thing. It's the mimic. It's the simulacrum, if you will. It's a copy of the original. And of course, a lot of these fruitcakes going out this simulacrum, they're going a little bit too deep for what it actually means. Like the legal system is a simulacrum. It's because it's a copy or a mimic of what the law system is. And they call it law because it's contract. So this simulacrum at the moment is being, to my mind, misrepresented in its actual meaning, its definition. But, you know. Benefactor, Star of David. What do you mean with that, benefactor? Kieran says, Jesus, Adam was mad, Randy. He was. He was a dirty little bugger. The animals were petrified in the garden. Davina says, what like the Torah wide Germanic hand-shaped ones and the Talmud Spock hand-shaped ones? Well, the thing is, you know, if you're following the game, Germany were took over a long time ago by these Sabbateans, which is why so much nonsense. You see, what they couldn't do was get themselves here. It was a difficult one because of the Constitution. And even Marx said that, exact same paraphrase. Doesn't matter what we do here in Europe, it crashes on the rocks of the English Constitution. So it's the undermining of England that's been the means to taking over Blighty. And bear in mind that England was built on the original laws before England were created that were here set up by the Trojans. For that you need to get your head into Wilson and Blackett or the Druids, what is available. There's not much about the Druids because I studied them immensely many years ago and I studied many books, but they mainly just circulate the same data because the Druidic data need to be remembered because it was an oral tradition. But I do have an interesting video on the website, an interview with the last Druid of Ireland, or of a particular part of Ireland, and that's a very interesting interview, which does work in sync with a lot of what Jason Brashears is saying about these consistent destruction cycles that keep happening all the time. Everything is free, says Benefactor. Yeah, that's true. Jerison and Mick, and yet Eve is before. Well, I mean, you've got the biblical tradition that all people that study it go with, which to my mind is pretty basic and isn't logical. So if something's not logical to me, then it's a fable. It's not. It just. So I've obviously studied a lot of the other paths and branches that come off that. As you're looking in the Zohar, you're looking in all the Kabbalistic works, which I studied for years in the 90s. So yeah, there's all sorts of different ideas that give you a bigger, fatter idea of the story. But ultimately, you know, most people just believe the one or the narrative that's told. You're told that you know story represents, I suppose. On the Eve. Oh right, got you. Yeah, interesting. Right, let's have a look. So in the absence of a beneficiary, which once you've gone in on the surname, you've vacated the equity title, the Crown becomes de facto beneficiary and then instructs the trustee, which is what it's done in its raft of acts and statutes and such. Yeah? So that's what they've already set up in the background. So as soon as that mechanic's done, you let go of equity, you've let go of beneficial title, you're the trustee, and the state or Crown is instructing the trustee. So you're going to dance, you're going to pay, you're going to buy a license, etc., etc. Now, interestingly, in bankruptcy, now this again is new to me, but obviously dealing with what I'm dealing with at the moment, it's quite on the ball for me, but when you become bankrupt, they've removed your position of trustee because they become the appointed trustee, does the receiver. Now, they don't tell you this. Now, when I had a first conversation with the receivers on the phone, I basically said, look, we haven't got an assignment deed here. We've no deed of assignment to show that you're legitimately able to act in this capacity. You need to send us a legitimate thing. So they sent us another fake, forged court order, no signature. So I pointed it out, this doesn't comply with CPR. It doesn't comply with the rules laid out by the Law Society on what a court document is. I said, so it doesn't suffice, it doesn't work. Sorry, you haven't supplied a correct deed of assignment, or, if you want to get clever, a court order that's valid. And we just said in and out and in and out. And anyway, we'd received a letter stating that this receiver had become the trustee. So I said to him, I said, look, if she's the trustee, who's the beneficiary? And he was like, I don't know what you mean. And he was like flapping his little tits off. Now, at that point, I was assuming that the beneficiary was the creditor that had brought the case, i.e. the council, claiming to be creditors. Yeah. But obviously, he was pretending he didn't have a clue what the fuck I was talking about. And I just said, well, look, this is trust law. If she's been appointed the trustee, who's the beneficiary? And he weren't having it. And that's when he said to me, are you legally trained? And I went, no, I'm just smart and I like to play chess. So, and he was like, so now when I've looked at this and I'm thinking, right, so what they don't want you to fucking know is that when you're bankrupt, you're no longer the trustee and they can't do it. You're the beneficiary, but you don't know that and they don't tell you. Well, what can a trustee not do? You can't harm the beneficiary. So in essence, and again I have to look at this a bit more in depth, but as long as you see, this is the thing, you would have to then hold that position of beneficiary against, and I think this, because this is exactly what we've done. And obviously they're not going to tell you this. And it's very interesting how this new data has sort of answered a few questions that I've already put in the mix that they didn't want to answer. What have we got here? Solomon says, it's an interesting story with a lot of fairly important messages. The Bible. I had zero religious upbringing. No, neither did I. And this is good because we haven't had that narrative forced onto us. So when we read something, we're interpreting it how we see it and not letting that edit that's been shoved in you in your church, your Sunday school. And if you were paying attention in assembly at school, it just never went in my head. I just weren't interested. So when I study the Bible, whatever part, if I ever read the Bible, parts of it, it means something completely fucking different to what everybody else believes. And for a few years, I went to the parish here and I actually tried to sort of give my translations to some parts of it, but no, they're stuck, they're fixed. You're not going to change the only way that they'd see it is if they actually applied their own intellect, but that's not what religious people do. They swoon on the emotion of it, belief. They're not actually applying themselves to it. And if they do, when they're reading what they're reading, they're already editing it to the narrative that's been forced in about what that says. So it is a trap. It's a trap for everybody. And this is why the elites use religion. It's the perfect mind job. Because they know you can't be arsed. You're not actually going to apply yourself to it correctly. This is why you've got so many secret societies. Intelligent people that have read this stuff and gone, what? What you're saying is shit. And you're killing folk for not believing what you're saying. This is why this has been, when you look at history. An interesting, Excuse me. Davina says, must say I love eating pigs products purposely unkosher, unhalal. Well, you can't get halal pigs, you won't go bloody near them, will they? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You look at the pig and already you've found one of the most non-violent weapons to change things, if you get my drift. Do you know what I'm saying? If you give it some thought. Now, what I've been trying to get across to Muslims is the fact that what are you going to do when China says, hey, we're running the fucking world, and you say to them, well, that's fine, but you're not allowed to eat the pig. Because the biggest consumer of pork is the Chinese. But I don't seem to be able to get that across to them for some reason, because they're not using their intellect. I can't do any more than that. Davina walk on in what? Right, person, me says. 1200. Person, an individual, a human being. From Old French, person, human being, any one person. Well, I don't know whether you've catched what I've been saying about what when you get into the catechism of the Catholic Church, and then you get into the United Nations handbook, that the United Nations talks about products when it's talking about registration, and it's talking about how it's going to deal with you. A concept and a product. Now, when you get into the catechism, they're very clear in the catechism of the Catholic Church that the concept, which is formed the minute mum goes off to say hello to the midwife, I'm up the duff. The concept that's created that they're holding in sin is the human. So it's a concept that they've created. And then the catechism also states that it's the duty of the church to ensure that the human has all the rights afforded to person. Now, I have got it on an earlier live stream. I mean, I can understand why people say I should do short videos. I do understand. But none of my system won't make them. They just... I need a new Mac. So if there's anybody out there who wants to throw me $6,000, then I can get a new Mac. I'll start making shorts. Because I think it would get into people's minds a lot more. And I wouldn't even need fucking YouTube. I could just put them on my website. But that's what's stopping me. I can't. I need a new Mac. I need a brand spanker. Because these that I've got now, I can't update anything because you're on an older system. And Apple, the clever bastards, won't let you update these older systems to the new systems so you can update the stuff. Ball bags. I mean, thousands of pens I've shoved down Apple's neck. And for them to do that, it's quite disgusting. It's a bit disgusting, to be honest. I thought I might solve it when I got this second-hand one, but no, you can't upgrade them onto the new operating system. And so there you can't update fuck all. So they're just going to become obsolete shortly, which is sad. Me says... Fiduciary adjective, 1640s. Holding something in trust, from Latin fiduciarius, entrusted, held in trust, from fiducia, trust, confidence, reliance in law. Yeah. A deposit pledge security. Yeah. I get you, me. Yeah, I get you. So thanks for that, my friend. I hope people are paying attention. Train me, old darling. At the coos tail, as usual, missed so much lately due to exhaustion, ill health. Are you alright, darling? What's up? Get some chili jack down your neck, kid. It's fucking dynamite. I'm not joking. Go and get yourself some. 3 days, you'll see a massive energy boost. So, hiya, Treen. Beneficiary says, when you sign a passport, you are classed as customer. Now, that's interesting because I got a passport this year for a specific reason. Now, I autographed it off on the form. Sean, : young common beneficiary. And only talking to somebody the other day did I realise that it's not signed. So they haven't copied that autograph onto this gig. What's that? Right, Chuck, it's from Himalayas. Just have a look online, Shilajit. And you want one that says it's pure. Get yourself some, Chuck. I'm telling you, 3 days, you won't believe. You will not believe what it does. It's amazing stuff. 92 minerals that you're not getting from your food anymore. If you're feeling down, kid, get yourself. I think 25 quid, 30 quid. Best spend you'll have had, honestly. Do it. Yeah, so I forgot what I was on about. Oh, passport. So I don't know what to make of that. Do I autograph it again, beneficiary, or do I just leave it unsigned? And then am I going to get stuck in fucking Timbuktu on a mountain? I'm going to have to hang glide it by a handmade hang glider off a mountain or something. You know, sometimes I've had to play Rambo. I mean, I might not be able to, it might not work anymore. I'm not a young pup anymore, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm on celery seeds for the inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis. Now, I'll tell you what I'm looking into at the moment. You know the tuning forks? Because some of them, you stick them on arthritis and shit like that. So, I'm sorry to hear you, Poorly Tree. It's not good. Jerry says Sheila G. What? What are you on about, Jerry? Sheila G? What's that? Oh, Sheila G. Oh, God, I'm thick. I am thick. No, it's jit, innit? Sheila shit. Sheila jit. With a J. Sheila jit. And you can get resin, which this is, or you can get a bit more liquidy. Liquidy is a bit easier to take. That takes a bit longer on your tongue. If you don't like things that don't taste good in your mouth, you might not like it. Where are we? I mean, that'll cover that little bit that I wanted to actually talk about, because it'll help you fix in your mind the mechanic that's playing out in relation to how they're nicking your equity title and making sure that you're remaining on the legal. Because if you can get that in your mind as in third eye and you can see it correctly, you're not going to cock up. You know, you're not going to make mistakes and stuff like that. Open the jar and give thee a look. It's just black. It's jet black stuff. You won't want to get it on carpet, I'll tell you that. You don't be getting it on your carpet. You can't really see it, can you? Oh, there you go. It's like tar. It is tar. From Himalayas. And then you can understand now why them Nepalese can run up and down mountains 60 times a day and not get tired. They're all on this stuff. Yeah. It's not whiz. They're not on whiz, they're on this. But honestly, I've been taking it now, what is it? It'll be 4 weeks on Thursday. But I've only just started taking this one, and I do think it's better than t'other. Put Shilajit in your coffee. Well, honestly, like I said, Trev, I don't care, you know. I mean, when you've shoved as many happy E's down your neck as I did in the 90s, you're sort of immune to bad tasting things on the tongue, to be honest. So I actually just like to stick it on my tongue till it becomes melted, then was it down with water, because there's, you know, it's gone. The taste's gone in no point. What does it tastes like shit. It's not a good taste, Treen. It really isn't. Black gold, yeah. I mean, it's dynamite stuff. It really is, but it sticks loads of testosterone on, which cancels out this estrogen game they're putting in with all everything. And testosterone's not what you think. It doesn't do what you think it does. It's very important for how your blood works, is testosterone. And so it balances that, but it's got 92 base minerals, or is it 87 of 9? I can't remember. That you're no longer getting in your food. And yeah, man, it's good stuff. It's Edward Ellis, that's the guy. Thanks, me. Yeah, I mean, I tried my best with him. A lovely guy. It was so complex, it was outrageous. And I have got some of his stuff on my website, what bit I could understand. But when I spoke with him, I think I was just a little bit too rough and northern, and he weren't having it. He thought I think he was a bit scared, to be honest, or something. But I tried my best. But I did find him a lovely guy, but it was just too much. You want to inhale it, for God's sake, Davina? What are you doing? No, I don't think you can do that, Chuck. You have to eat it. Davina. I don't know. Can you inhale it? I don't know. Well, on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say thanks for joining. Thanks for taking part, all of you. It's been a good chat tonight. Maybe it's better, actually, when you guys join in like that. Thanks, me, for excellent information. And you really helped people there. Yeah, Davina, you naughty girl. We like naughty girls. We don't mind naughty girls on here. So, yeah, thanks, chaps. I really appreciate your time and your effort. I do. And I really appreciate the fact that you take part. I hope I make sense. And I'll be back next week. And I'll say to thee, where are we? Till the next time.
electronic engineering.